Hello, Christine. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to talk to you today about the patrilineal line of Arthur William Virgin. I'm going to start out here with in chronological order, with William Virgin. William Virgin was born about 1670. We're not quite sure exactly when. There's no birth records for him, but the reason we know he exists is because he's on all of his children's birth records with his wife Anne. They had at least three sons and at least two daughters, possibly up to three more children, all of which the births took place in this place, Puddington. Right now, it's not called Puddington, it's called Poddington. And the name Puddington came from this manor house that was built near these castle ruins that were there. The castle was in ruins at the time that they lived there. So Poddington is a small little community that has about 400 people living in it now. It's very rural. It is possible that he was a farmer living out that way at that time. And so that was our first virgin. Next is we're going to talk about his son Robert Virgin. Robert Virgin, he was born in 1694 in Puddington, and he moved and had a family to a place called Merston Mortain. Merston Mortain is also a very small rural community spread out. Likely he was a farmer. And he passed away at the age of 59, which was pretty good for that era. And he married a woman named Elizabeth Bassett. They had at least four daughters and at least two sons. He was likely also a farmer. Next on our journey is his son, John. John, he was born in 1725 in Merston Mortain, and he married a woman named Anne Nixon, and he died at the age of 42 in Merston Mortain, so he stayed there probably as a farmer. The notable thing about his life, besides he had quite a few children, was that he was married at the age of 13 to Anne, who was 21. So this must have been some type of scandal, or it's a mistake in the documentation, and a professional genealogist would need to look at it. I looked at the source documents and did confirm the dates of his birth and the dates of his marriage, and it puts him at age 13. So it's either a scandal or a mistake, but that's the interesting thing about his life. He married a much older girl at the age of 13. Next, we have his son, Samuel. Samuel was born in 1752 in Merston Mortain and died in Daventry. So his life it looks like it had some challenges. He didn't get married until 35, and I found out later when I was pulling all these documents that he spent some time in at age 71, he spent some time at a hospital and received a pension for some military duty. And in the documentation, it says that at the age of 25, he lost his left hand in some type of military action. And so you could see there's not, he didn't get married to 35. So somewhere in here, when he was age 25, he he had this terrible tragedy of losing his left hand. This might explain why he moved to Daventry, because Daventry was a coaching capital of that area. People coming, going, getting to and from London would stop here at this coaching station, And so possibly he moved there to be a part of the stagecoach because industry because he could no longer be a farmer with the loss of his left hand. That's just speculation. There's no documentation to show that he was a changed to his profession from farmer to something related to coaching, but it's just speculation that that's why he moved from Merston Mortain to Daventry. So at the very old age of 35, he married Elizabeth and had three sons, and then had a pretty long life for that age for that era, and died in at age 81. Next is George Virgin, the son of Samuel, and he was born in Merston Martin at 1795. Was married at age 17 to Elizabeth Major and had a bunch of kids. The last two kids, Bathsheba and George, were twins, and they were not born until after his death. He died at age 33. So that must have been pretty difficult for the family. Now, this is true hardship. We have a lot of orphan virgins. They lived in this nearby town of Husborne Crawley, which is also extremely rural, and 200 people live there now, and it's pretty close by here to Merston Mortain. Next is George Jr. He was born in 1827 and he had a twin sister, Bathsheba, who dies at age 1. His father, of course, dies before he was born or right after he was born. So he is the first virgin now to have real, real difficulty in his life economically. We see his first residence is located in 1841 at another family of virgins, so he's living with some distant relatives in 1841 at age 14. And then at age 15, he's moved to a workhouse. So that's pretty traumatic. Those workhouses were not very good conditions. And then he moves down to London and gets himself into some trouble. He's convicted and imprisoned for assault. And there's actually a newspaper article that explains what happened. It says from the evidence, first of all, here he is listed right here. The two respectable men named George Virgin and John Timas what they did was from the evidence for the prosecution, it appeared that at 11 o'clock on the night of 8th of October, the prosecutors were walking homewards along Lambeth Hill when the prisoners rushed against them and knocked them off the footpath. They asked the prisoners why they behaved in such a manner, but the only answer they received was a continuation of the assault. Mr. Clark receiving several violent blows to the face and his wife being caught by the throat and pushed with great force against the wall. The police were called, etc. They end up in prison. They claimed it was like a alcohol fueled brawl altercation, but the judge didn't believe him and put him in prison. Okay, so that is where we've got George Jr. He's getting into trouble with the law. And then not too long after that, he's imprisoned again a second time for larceny when he's 28. But by age 30, it seems like he's settled down and found his way and is married to Fanny. And they have five girls and two boys. And they're life is around the outskirts of London. That's where they reside. And he dies at age 59 there and is buried in London area. George Jr. has Arthur Henry Virgin. That's who we're going to talk about next. Arthur Henry Virgin was born 1876 in London area, and he has a residence. He shows up on a census survey in Paddington, London, which not to be confused with Poddington or Puddington, different place here in London. And experiences his father's death at age 10, which was a bummer, especially since he ends up in a house of orphans. So this is the home for orphans here in Kent, or yes, in Kent. And so that would have been some type of difficulty happening in the family because his mother was still alive, but he was sent off to this home for orphans in Kent. But at 18, he gets out of there. He joins the military, and then he is, it looks like he starts traveling around, moving around in the military. Age 31, he marries for the first time in his home city, and he marries this woman, Olive, and they have a son shortly after, Herbert George Arthur Virgin. But both Herbert and Olive die in India. They, as a family, are stationed there in India from 1909 to 1912. And during that time, in 1908 and 1909 time period, he loses both his son and his wife there, one right after the other. So then he moves back to England and it moves around again in the military. He spends some time in Dorset, and then he marries Elizabeth Ann at age 37 and stays in Dorset, it looks like, for a while. Still in the military. And then he has takes up residence in London, where he has his daughter, and he's got a daughter, Kitty, Nora, and Mary, and then Arthur and Henry, the twins, his twins. So he starts having children at age 38. This is quite old to be having children, but it looks like he wanted to get his military career kind of out of the way before having children. By age 45, after more than 20 years in the military, it looks like he possibly got out because this census at age 45 has him as a engineering clerk living on the outskirts of London. And so, yes, Paddington. Yeah, it's right there in the London area. So he passes away at age 62 and is there buried in London. Finally, the last person we're going to talk about is someone that you know well, Arthur William Virgin, and he was born in 1924 in the London area. And he spent some time in the military during World War II. He was married to Georgetta in 1954 and passed away in 2005 in France. So that's the documentation that I have for Arthur William Virgin. If you have any questions, just let me know and I'll try and answer your questions as best that I can. Thanks.